सादर नमस्ते।
नमस्ते जी।
नमस्ते सबको सादर नमस्ते. Today is Friday, February 9th, 2024, and we are now going to start our session on Sandhya Upaasanaa and Mantra Swadhyaya. आप सभी लोगों का मैं स्वागत करता हूं जो भी इसमें जुड़े हुए हैं या YouTube पर जुड़ रहे हैं. हमारे आज के स्पीकर हैं अनन्या आर्या जी हैं फ्रॉम वैदिक टेम्पल इन टोरंटो. सो आई एम गोइंग टू स्पॉटलाइट हर.
जी
नमस्ते अनन्या जी, आपका स्वागत है.
नमस्ते जी।
जी नमस्ते जी, सबको सादर नमस्ते. चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं संध्या. Let's sit.
Everybody please mute yourself.
जी. So let's sit straight. Close our eyes gently. Withdraw our mind from the outside subjects. We'll chant Om 3 times. Inhale deeply and chant Om while exhaling. Again inhale. One more time. ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. ॐ शन्नो देवीरभिष्टय आपो भवन्तु पीतये शय्योरभिस्रवन्तु नः. ॐ वाक् वाक्, ॐ प्राणः प्राणः, ॐ चक्षुः चक्षुः, ॐ श्रोत्रं श्रोत्रम्, ॐ नाभिः, ॐ हृदयम्, ॐ कण्ठः, ॐ शिरः, ॐ बाहुभ्यां यशोबलम्, ॐ करतलकरपृष्ठे. In the next set of mantras, we pray to that Almighty for the purity of our mind, of our intellect, of our thoughts. We say over and over, Punatu, Punatu. May I be awakened spiritually. Help me purify my actions. May my actions become pure and truthful. May I become pure in mind and thoughts and strong enough not to yield to tempting sins. To be on the evil path. May I be strong enough not to yield to that path. ॐ भूः पुनातु शिरसि ॐ भुवः पुनातु नेत्रयोः ॐ स्वः पुनातु कण्ठे ॐ महः पुनातु हृदये ॐ जनः पुनातु नाभ्याम् ॐ तपः पुनातु पादयोः ॐ सत्यं पुनातु पुनः शिरसि ॐ खं ब्रह्म पुनातु सर्वत्र ॐ हुः ॐ भुवः ॐ स्वः ॐ महः ॐ जनः ॐ तपः ॐ सत्यम् ॐ ऋतं च सत्यं चाभिधात्तपसोऽध्यजायत ततो रात्र्यजायत ॐ समुद्रादर्णवादधी संवत्सरो अजायत अहोरात्राणि विदधद्विश्वस्य मिषतो वशी ॐ सूर्याचन्द्रमसौ धाता यथा पूर्वमकल्पयत् दिवं च पृथिवीं चान्तरिक्षमथो स्वः ॐ शन्नो देवीरभिष्टय आपो भवन्तु पीतये शंयोरभिस्रवन्तु नः ॐ प्राचीदिगग्निरधिपतिरसितो रक्षितादित्यायिषवः तेभ्यो नमोऽधिपतिभ्यो नमो रक्षितृभ्यो नमः ईशुभ्यो नमः एभ्यो अस्तु योऽस्मान्वेष्टियं वयं द्विष्मस्तं वोचं भेदद्मः ॐ दक्षिणादिगिन्द्रोऽधिपतिस्थिरशिराजिरक्षिता पितरैषवः तेभ्यो नमोऽधिपतिभ्यो नमो रक्षितृभ्यो नमः ईशुभ्यो नमः एभ्यो अस्तु योऽस्मान्वेष्टियं वयं द्विष्मस्तं वोचं भेदद्मः ॐ प्रतीचिदिक्वरुणोऽधिपतिः प्रीदाकुरक्षितान्नमिषवः तेभ्यो नमोऽधिपतिभ्यो नमो रक्षितृभ्यो नमः ईशुभ्यो नमः एभ्यो अस्तु योऽस्मान्वेष्टियं वयं द्विष्मस्तं भोजं भेदद्मः ॐ उदीचिदिक्सोमोऽधिपतिः स्वजो रक्षिता शनिरिषवः तेभ्यो नमोऽधिपतिभ्यो नमो रक्षितृभ्यो नमः ईशुभ्यो नमः एभ्यो अस्तु योऽस्मान्वेष्टियं वयं द्विष्मस्तं वोचं भेदद्मः ॐ ध्रुवादिग्विष्णुरधिपतिः कल्माषग्रीवो रक्षिता विरुधैषवः तेभ्यो नमोऽधिपतिभ्यो नमो रक्षितृभ्यो नमः ईशुभ्यो नमः एभ्यो वस्तु योऽस्मान्द्वेष्टियं वयं द्विष्मस्तं वोजं भेदद्मः ॐ ध्रुवादिग्विष्णुरधिपतिः कल्माषग्रीवो रक्षिता विरुधैषवः तेभ्यो नमोऽधिपतिभ्यो नमो रक्षितृभ्यो नमः ईशुभ्यो नमः एभ्यो अस्तु योऽस्मान्द्वेष्टियं वयं विष्मस्तं वोजं भेदद्मः ॐ ऊर्ध्वादिक्बृहस्पतिरधिपतिः श्वित्रो रक्षिता वर्षमिषवः तेभ्यो नमोऽधिपतिभ्यो नमो रक्षितृभ्यो नमः ईशुभ्यो नमः एभ्यो अस्तु योऽस्मान्द्वेष्टियं वयं द्विष्मस्तं वोजं भेदद्मः ॐ उद्वयं तामसस्परिस्वः पश्यन्त उत्तरं देवं देवत्रा सूर्यमगन्मज्योतिरुत्तमम् ॐ उदुत्यं जातवेदसं देवं वहन्ति केतवः दृशे विश्वाय सूर्यम् ॐ चित्रं देवानामुदगादनीकं चक्षुर्मित्रस्य वरुणस्याग्नेः आप्राद्या वा पृथिवी अन्तरिक्षं सूर्य आत्मा जगतस्तस्तु शस्य स्वाहा ॐ तचक्षुर्देवहितं पुरस्तात् शुक्रमुच्चरत् पश्येम शरदः शतं जीवेम शरदः शतं शृणुयाम शरदः शतं प्रब्रवाम शरदः शतमदीनाः स्याम शरदः शतं भूयश्च शरदः शतात् ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् हे ईश्वरदयानिधे भवत्कृपयानेन जपोपासनादिकर्मणः धर्मार्थकाममोक्षाणां सद्यः सिद्धिर्भवेन्नः ॐ नमः शम्भवाय च मयोभवाय च नमः शङ्कराय च मयस्कराय च नमः शिवाय च शिवतराय च ॐ शान्तिः 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 Let's rub our palms and cover our closed eyes. Gently open our eyes. Take away our palms. I'm going to share my screen.
Hold on, I have to make you a co-host first.
Okay.
Okay, you are co-host now.
Ji. You are able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. This is the same mantra which we discussed in our last session. It is mainly around how a king should lead its nation, how he should work for the progress and prosperity of his nation. But what significance has this mantra has for us, for regular people, for people who are though not in administration, but still it gives a very deep message, a very significant message for us. I'll simply conclude the mantra within next 2-3 minutes, and then we will look into its significance. Last time we covered the first line of this mantra, Sa yo na muhe na mithu jano bhootsumantunaamaa CHUMURIM DHUNIM cha. We did till bhootsumantunaamaa. So till this part, this first sentence of this mantra, it means that a king who is not untruthful, who is truthful, who is honest, who is sincere, his subjects, Janaha, his subjects, na muhe, they do not walk on the path of evil. They do not take the path of ills and evils. And that particular king gets popularized, he gets his glory being a bhoot. He becomes Sumantu Naam. Because मनुष्य उसी को कहते हैं मत्वा कर्माणि सीव्यति, the one who does his actions after proper contemplation, after proper reflection on what he is speaking, what he is going to speak, what he is going to act. And Sumantu, he is called Sumanan karne wala, that particular king or the whosoever is the leader, he is said to be person of well contemplation, of good reflection, who is truthful, and Chumurim Dhani. And now they are explaining his duties, his responsibilities. They have explained them. So this particularly means Chumurim Dhuni. It means the people who steps on others' rights, who tends to possess others' possessions. So those people, he puts a restraint on those kind of people. He established a proper system, a system of punishment, a system of administration. He applies his rules and regulations so that they get punished properly. And Vrinak means the one who destroys. Who destroys what kind of people? Piprum. That means जो अपना ही पेट भरते हैं, who continues to focus on themselves, who are selfish people, who do not care about others, who only think about themselves. So those kind of people, he targets those people. Shambharam, Sham means Shanti, harmony, peace, and who destroys the peace of other people, who becomes obstruction in the peaceful life of others. Those kind of people, a king ensures that they should be punished well. Shushnam, shoshan karne wale, the people who exploits other, they also those kind of people also need to be punished. And then it says Indraha, that is called a real Indra, that is called a real king. And what else he does is Pura CHYAUTNAAYA. Pura means Poorn. Pura means entirely. He, a king who tries well for the overall, for the entire CHYAUTNAAYA, for their prosperity, for their progress, for their well-being. He makes his maximum efforts for their comfort, for their contentful and peaceful life. And Shayathaya. Shayan means sona in Sanskrit. Shi dhatu means to sleep. And he ensured that people in his nation, in his kingdom, they are able to sleep well without any fear of hoarders, or without any fears of exploiters, or without any fears of thieves, etc. So that particular king gets his glory, he rises himself, and he ensures that his subjects also proceeds on the path of righteousness. They also become virtuous, and they do not follow the path of evil, and they feel safe in his nation. Now coming to its message for us people, as there is the responsibility. Okay, let me. I think we can now stop sharing the screen. So, as the duty of a king is to ensure that his people not only they feel safe, but he works for their well-being. He works for their progress. He works for their advancement in life. They feel happy and content. Similarly, we as a parent, we as a teacher, we as a guide, we also need to become person of well contemplation, person of doing our actions before. First we should think deeply, and then we should jump onto our actions. We should also become a good guide for our children, for our students, for our disciples, for the people who consider us as their uh, who take directions from us. Now, many a times in our life, a question arises because we are also the leader, we are also the ruler, we are also the administrator of our small unit of family. Many a times the question arises whether we should punish our children or not, and what kind of punishment. Because in India it is very popular that there they used to punish, they are very strict teachers and parents as well. And here in America, what we used to hear is that people here, they do not punish them much. Rather, even in schools, my children also go to school. So they say they focus more on rewarding them. If they do good, they always tend to reward them, and but they do not punish much. They do not focus on that area. So one day my son came to me and he said to me that both are not right, because if you will keep becoming too severe or too strict with them, they will not um, they will not behave, or they will not become as we want them to be. They will not become as much obedient as we want them to be, because as the duty and responsibility of a king is to ensure the progress and prosperity of his nation, so is the duty of a parent and teacher is that their children, their students, they also turn into humane human beings. They also turn into noble beings. They also become virtuous and righteous in their life. That's the duty of a king as well, is to maintain the righteousness in his nation. So is our duty that our next generation becomes righteous, become virtuous. They also follow the noble path. They do not follow the evil path. That's the duty and responsibility which is bestowed on us as a parent. Now, so when he said that both are not right, so what he wanted to convey the message is that, and if we just focus on rewarding them and not punishing them for their wrong acts, if they do not have the fear of punishment, they will not follow that path. They will, because they will work as long as there are rewards, and when they start to feel bored and when they do not need those rewards anymore, they will not follow that path. So even I thought over his point, and I also agree that yes, both are required. Now the question arises, why punishment? Why not just being loving to them, or being affectionate to them, or finding other ways to handle them well, to handle the situation well? But what I learned by reading the Manusmriti and by reading the sixth chapter of Satyarth Prakash, and what overall my understanding became is, yes, punishment is required, because as for a king, if he rules his nation without proper administration, without those rules and regulations, without the enforcement of law, his subjects will not they will never be on the path of righteousness. As we see in America, that the system is very good, especially regarding the traffic rules and all that stuff. We all follow that system because that is there, the punishment is very high. We have to pay a lot of fine and all other formalities are there, so we are always very much careful while driving and other things. Similarly, in a family, in a school, in student life also, there is punishment should be, if we do not punish them, if the teacher or parent become too liberal or too lenient, then they don't take them seriously, they are not going to follow the right path. However, if they become too severe, too strict, then also they become, many a times they become kind of revolting nature, they become unyielding, they become obstinate. जैसे हम कहते हैं कि बच्चे जो हैं डीठ बन जाते हैं, they don't care about the punishment, they don't fear that. So neither the punishment should go at that end. So the basically punishment should be given, but it should be given very mindfully, very thoughtfully. That's what the message of this mantra as well, that a king who is well contemplative, who is well meditative, who is well reflective on his actions, on his rules, on the enforcement of law, how he inflicts punishment, how he ensures that justice is given, who is the promoter of justice. Similarly, a parent who also ensures that how he is going to ensure the well-being of his child, and at the same time the rules, the principles which he lays out for his progress, for his advancement, for him to become a noble being in his life, that they should be executed well and they should be executed thoughtfully. If a justice is given, if a punishment is given blindly or unthoughtfully, it is never going to serve the purpose, rather it will reverse the purpose. And it is well said that a person who is not developed himself, and if he inflicts the punishment, if he tries to impose the justice, it is going to ruin himself. Because as we also know very well, that it is well said, before raising a child we should raise ourselves, to understand his psychology, to understand the status of his mind, to understand what he goes through, whether before punishing him or before scolding him, before making any kind of judgment, we should be very thoughtful that what was his fault, whether he was on fault knowingly or unknowingly, to what extent he did it knowingly, and if he did out of ignorance, then whether he should be punished or not, and if yes, then to what extent. And that's also my personal feeling, that what we seek in our life is basically the right judgment, the right justice, the impartiality. Because even if we were punished, maybe bitterly in our child time, but later when we grow and when our discerning power increases, when our knowledge increases, the domain of our knowledge increases, we understand that why we were punished, why we were being treated that way. So sooner or later we realize that. But if the judgment is not right, if a parent is not able to understand the psychology of child, if he becomes too severe or if he becomes too lenient, then both ways it is going to spoil the system, it is going to spoil the purpose of laws, the purpose of rules and regulations, the purpose of do's and don'ts which we lay down for our children. And that's a different matter, that what kind of punishment we give them. It can be not talking to them for some point of time, it can be giving them time out, it can be not allowing them their favorite thing or their favorite food, or it can be more productive in the sense that they can be given a punishment of doing some exercise, of doing some household chore, or giving them some writing work, making uh, saying them to write a documentary or preparing a speech, etc., which they generally are hesitating to do. So that kind of punishment help them to grow in their life, That kind of punishment helped them to enhance themselves mentally, intellectually, and psychologically. That's what I also saw in the serial Chanakya, wherein he was training Chandragupta Maurya. His punishments were very good. He used to punish him like maybe count the falling leaves, or maybe he spreads all the seeds on the floor and then tell Chandragupta to collect it or to count it or to clean the place as in the least amount of time. Or sometimes he used to give him the punishment of solving a riddle, of solving a puzzle, that only if you are able to solve this puzzle you will be granted food. I mean, not to that extent with uh, our students or our children, but yes, some sort which help them grow intellectually, which help them enhance their cognition level. So that punishment will become a source of growth for them as well as a learning for them. So that also I liked very much. And another point around punishment which I have is that it says, Manusmriti says, Prajas tatra na muhyanti, neta chet sadhu pashyati. If the neta, if the leader, if the ruler, if the administrator, or if a parent, if they are able, if they have that vision, if they have that far sight, because if he is not sadhu, if he is not of um, that evolved nature, if he is not a good person in himself, then his praja, his subjects, his students, or his children, they will always follow the unrighteous path. Because what we instruct to our children, that do not matter much. What we instruct them, they follow or not, it depends upon their discerning power. Because when we instruct them, they only listen. But if we ourselves are honest, if we ourselves are truthful, if we ourselves follow that discipline, if we ourselves follow that righteous path, then that becomes a kind of showing them path through example. Because what they feel, what they observe, what they experience matters most to them rather than what instructions they are being given. They will not follow those principles, those rules which we do not follow, which we as a guide do not follow. If our king is not right, yatha raja tatha praja. As a parent, so is a child. Yatha guru tatha shishya. So it entirely depends what kind of environment they grow up with, how we deal with the situations, how humble we are when we are talking with our peers or with other people, how well we are balanced inside. If we vent out our anger onto them, controlling, uh, losing the control on ourselves, then our judgment is not going to be right. So that's all what they observe. And if they see uh, any part of partiality in that, or if it is not judged properly, they take it to their heart. They do not feel like following those laws, those rules, those principles. And what discipline we follow, what time we sleep, what time we get up, so that leave a long life impact onto their hearts, onto their minds, that leaves a strong impressions on their mind. And when those kind of situation come in their life, if we care for other emotions, they will also care. So those things craft their path of life, those things craft the growth of their life, and they start to follow that path. So it goes entirely in line with yatha raja tatha praja. And another point, while establishing the justice, while establishing the right judgment, is that if we have more than one child, if there are two children or three children, then also many a times it becomes we are we are well wishers of them equally. we want to establish our system based on equity. In front of us, they all are equal. But the thing is, many a times we also have a soft corner for one of the child. We all the person who has a emotional connection with us, we tend more towards them, and unknowingly we become partial to the other child, because the child who is connected emotionally to us, he is more obedient to us, he generally follows more discipline, he lives in more discipline. But if there is a quarrel between two children, and the one who is connected to us more, so it becomes very natural for us to bend towards him, to take his side. However, the reality is, in that particular situation, who is right and who is wrong, we have to evaluate, we have to gauge that situation without the wheel of partiality, without any bias. But in the flow of life, in the flow of our actions, when we do not contemplate well, when we do not think well, and sometimes we don't have much time to take the decisions well, but that also impacts, especially that child who is not emotionally connected to us, who is still having that bridge between us and him, it impacts a lot more to him. So at that point as well, we have to be very, very impartial, very, very unbiased. And if we are able to maintain that impartiality, that leaves a very strong point on that child who is not yet emotionally or intellectually connected to us. Then he also understands our level, and that impartiality goes a very long way, and that also helps to build a long relationship. And on the other hand, if we just become impartial with with our flow, then that other child, he becomes very obstinate or very unyielding towards us. And for that, we need to have that balance internally. And the last point I want to make here is that many a times it is said that justice is blind, ki kaanoon andha hai, because in India it is said, because people get their justice after a long time. So people used to question, justice is blind because it is not able to see who is right and who is wrong, which is the most important thing in our life, because we also need adequate reward and adequate punishment for our actions. If they are not in proportion to our actions, we don't feel good. Similarly, the definition which is given, that it cannot evaluate who is right and who is wrong, that's why justice is blind. However, that logic, that answer is completely wrong. The real answer is, why is justice blind? Why a person is shown with his blindfolded eyes is because justice do not see who is rich or who is poor. He doesn't see who is mine and who is not mine. He doesn't see who is beautiful or who is ugly. He makes the decisions simply based on the actions. Simply, yes, the judgment which is made in this world, that also depends a lot on evidences. However, God's justice is not just simply depending upon evidences. So what we seek for in justice is that it should be proportionate to our actions, and that's why God is said the embodiment of just. And a king is also said to be a representative of that God, when he ensures God's injunctions, the path of that righteousness and virtuousness and benevolence for his subjects. So is our duty towards our next generation to establish that path with the right kind of justice, and with the intention of their well-being. But that justice should be implemented with the right thinking, with the right contemplation. And it is also said, a king should not be submerged in sensuous pleasures. Same is true for us as well, because when we are weak in that area, when we do not have control on ourselves, even in that point of time, we are not able to judge the things well. We are not able to perceive the situation well. And our decisions many a times do not turn out well. So that's also one of the points that a king or a leader or a parent or a teacher should have. Because those virtues, our habits, our action patterns, they are inherited by them. So I think that's all about this mantra. And in our next session, we'll take some other mantra. If you have any
किसी
questions, you can ask.
किसी को क्वेश्चन है
Otherwise,
तो प्लीज यू कैन आस्क, but you have to unmute yourself.
Ananya ji, namaste. बहुत अच्छा presentation आपने दिया. There are certain issues I wanted to talk to you. Can I have your email?
yes. So my email is Ananya, my first name,
Yeah.
and then VIRAT at
Okay.
gmail.com. @gmail.com. Ji.
One word. Ananya Virat, one word. I mean,
Then
is there any...
@gmail.com.
Oh,
Ji,
there's
that's
no
it.
space in between. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
नहीं,
Okay.
ठीक है, चलिए फिर शांति पाठ कर दीजिए.
शांति पाठ कर लेते हैं जी. ओम द्यौ शान्तिरन्तरिक्षं शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वं शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेधि. ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः.
आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
नमस्ते.
जुड़ने के लिए. It was a good presentation. How can we apply the education given by this mantra to our day-to-day life to bring up our own children? So आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जुड़ने के लिए, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks. अभी आज गीता पर जो क्लास होती है वो नहीं होगी. आप सबने शायद पढ़ लिया होगा व्हाट्सएप पर, वो कैंसिल कर दी गई है. And we will tomorrow there is a havan at 11 a.m. Eastern time, EPSA की तरफ से. So जिनके पास समय है, जिनकी रुचि है, तो आप please do join that one. So that concludes our session on Sandhya Upaasanaa and Mantra Swadhyaya for today's session. तो मैं अब इसको क्लोज करने जा रहा हूँ. सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जुड़ने के लिए. नमस्ते, सबको नमस्ते.
धन्यवाद.
Namaste.